more moral utility to behave as if those things were true, then why, by your own logic, is it bad for me to raise my children?
Because you cannot address the point of what I've brought up multiple times.
I'm bringing up your point. You said the moral argument. I'm saying,
you're not listening. You're not listening. You're not listening.
You can't answer this question because I got you.
You're not listening. I've answered this multiple times.
No, this is a new question.
I think it's very bad faith for you to ask me that question, knowing my response to it that I've given multiple times. I'll give it one more time.
This is a new question, dude. This is a new question. I'm saying, what if it's just for moral utility?
He already started the question. He already started the question.
What if it's just for moral utility, that I believe that it has more moral utility to behave as if these things were true? So now it's
what if you ignore the God claims and it's just morals? Why can't I raise my kid religious when I distinguish multiple times? It's not the morals, it's the God claims.
No, that's why I said in this hypothetical.
God.
I know, but in this hypothetical,
why do you keep doing that?
No, but I said
and over and over again, Eli. Why do you keep thinking my point and my burden of proof is to substantiate why your moral framework around religion is wrong when it's the fact that you're teaching religious claims to a child? That's the point.
No, but what if we took out...
You can learn from plenty of religions. Me, as an atheist, I can look in a Bible and learn good things. I can look in a Quran and learn good things. I can learn good things from every single religious text. You can find good moral shit in there. Doesn't mean I need to devote my life to it, and doesn't justify somebody telling me to devote my life to it just because they believe that view is best for me.
Well, but that's exactly what you're doing when you say, if I'm going to impose my morality on my kid that's not religious, you're doing it because you think that's what's best for them.
I'm telling them to be a good person. I'm not telling them to devote their lives to God. Why do you think that's equivalent?
No, because your standard was what you think. Well, first of all, you said in my system, I shouldn't do that just because I think it's what's best. But in your situation, it's just because you think it's what's best.
I'm debating the thing is, we are currently debating morality. We're not debating God. If we were debating God, this conversation would look very different. We are currently debating morality based on our own subjective views. Guess what? You have a subjective view that God exists. I have a subjective view that God doesn't exist. I'm not telling people to believe that God doesn't exist. You're telling them to believe that God exists. We are not operating under similar frameworks at all.
Well, you're literally telling me.
But you're telling me to accept this framework that if you believe a truth claim is true and you attach it to morality, it's justifiable to teach any truth claim just because it's attached to morality you like.
Literally telling me to not tell. You said I'm not telling anybody to not believe in God. But your whole anti-raising kids religious is you shouldn't tell your kids to believe in God. What are you talking about?
You shouldn't tell them that God doesn't exist either. You should teach them to find truth of spiritual or radical claims on their own and give them resources to find that.
So then why should we tell them that harm is bad?
Because harm reduction logic is rooted in human nature, not a deity. I don't know why you think that's similar.
No? Are you kidding? You don't think it's in human nature to have...
in order to justify being a good person.
You don't think violence is in human nature?
What is?
Violence.
Violence is in human nature. It's a part of survival. It's a part of protecting your resources. As a part of self-defense. Violence is in our nature. That's why there's fight or flight.
Yeah, I know, but your thing about little Jimmy hitting little Timmy, that's in his nature to do that, to be selfish and to lash out. And we have to teach them to go.
Yeah, and then you can also give the justification that we're social creatures, so you probably shouldn't hurt everybody you come across because then nobody's going to be there for you. Nobody's going to have your back. Nobody's going to be able to help you when you get old. Nobody's going to be able to show empathy towards you when you show empathy towards them. Also, having empathy also makes people feel good. Being a good person can feel very good for a lot of people.
No, now you're in a contradiction. Because now you just said that harm reduction is in our nature, and then you turn around and say that nobody's going to help you. If harm reduction was in our nature, then yeah, everybody would come to help us. Silence.
What are you asking me to justify? Because I keep giving you responses and it's just never enough.
I'm just pointing out that you have no standard.
You're asking me to literally concrete prove subjective morality.
No, you have no standard.
You're asking me to concrete prove subjective morality for you to see that raising somebody under a religious system is wrong. You're not willing to address any of the logic I'm providing because you want to make it necessary in this conversation to equate moral teachings and truth claims. And I said multiple times that you have not responded to once, by the way, that you have a different mindset going into a science classroom as you do a religious institution. And that what you're willing to accept as truth is different in both situations. And the burden of proof that you have to accept that as truth is different in both situations. You are not addressing that. I've addressed every single point that you've made multiple times. You are not responding.
No, and I've just exposed you as inconsistent. What I'm pointing out.
No, you haven't.
Yes,
I have. You haven't at all.
And
that's condescending as fuck to try to get me to listen to you if you think I'm going to listen to that shit.
Every reason that you have posited for why someone shouldn't raise.
Well, you're inconsistent because your framework for morality is different than your framework for truth claims when it comes to spirituality. And that's inconsistent because I'm telling you need to accept that truth claims are the same foundation as morality. Like, come on. It's so simple.
Because in your worldview,
that's what you're saying.
In your worldview, it's all opinion based. So you have no basis by which to tell me that my opinion I shouldn't raise my kids with, but your opinion we should.
Do you think that under the subjective moral framework, you can't have laws?
Well, yeah, I think we can have laws under a subjective moral framework. Actually, no, I really don't believe that. I don't think that we can have it.
Then you're dumb, because we do. I hate to break it to you, there are plenty of laws that were made by people that were not religious.
No, well, I mean, I think that you can,
or had different beliefs.
I think that you can claim it, but I think you're denying reality when you do.
Okay. Well, I think you're denying reality that a God doesn't exist. Like,
no,
where does that get us?
I'm just pointing out that you have a huge double standard. You have a huge double standard whenever you say that.
I don't have a double standard. You're just not willing to accept my standard. You think I need to accept your standard that it's equivalent.
No,
you're demanding that I accept your standard that teaching about morality is the same as teaching about a God existing. You are demanding that I accept that standard. Are you not?
You are making universal.
Yes or no?
Say it again, one more time.
Because you weren't listening. You are telling me to accept your standard that teaching a child about morality and teaching a child about a God existing has the same amount of burden of proof to provide evidence for. You're telling me to accept that because I'm telling you that they're different. We come to different conclusions, and there's different emphasis that we carry when it comes to teaching kids about being a good person versus teaching them about a God existing or other truth claims, whether it's ghosts. So a lot of parents don't tell their kids that ghosts exist. Some do. Some people want to respect their child's beliefs to believe or not believe in ghosts, and that's something that they let them discover later in life on their own terms. That's what I'm saying is optimal. I don't want to tell them that ghosts exist or not exist. I want them to come to conclusions on their own because those are radical claims. Those aren't just believing in, believing that the sun's going to come up the next day or that your car might start. These are different things. Some things can be proven, some things can't, and you should have a level of evidence that you can substantiate when it comes to things that especially if you're telling somebody to live their lives according to this shit.
You're doing the exact same thing when you tell people to live their lives according to not murdering somebody. And you have if you think that I don't have any justification for a belief in a God, I'm saying you don't have any more justification for why you should teach a kid right from wrong.
Okay, I think harm reduction is a good standard to have because we're human beings, we're social creatures. We should have empathy. If you don't have empathy, something is mentally wrong with you, and there is psychological substantiation for that.
Why is that the case?
What are you asking for? Are you telling me to justify subjective morality or not?
Yeah. I'm telling you
cool.
why.
So you will not accept anything I say about moral claims as substantive at all, even though you're here to debate me about moral claims and to ask me why I believe something is right or wrong. You're telling me in order for you to consider anything I am saying at all, I need to prove to you for a fact that subjective morality is a better framework than
no.
Objective morality, and you need to agree with
own opinion.
Do you understand how dense that is? That is your standard of evidence for what you can or cannot teach a child.
You're not understanding
that is so
what
dumb.
I'm asking.
That is so dumb. There are truth claims that we think are ridiculous to teach your child. Why aren't you addressing that?
No. I'm asking you.
Why aren't you addressing that? He's not going to address it. He's not going to answer it.
I'll address it, but I want you to actually understand what I'm asking.
If I asked him to give me a direct answer on that, I guarantee he would ask me to repeat it.
I answer everything directly. What do you want a direct answer?
No, you didn't.
What do you want to?
You've answered actually pretty much nothing that I've said. You've had your talking points that you've gone back to multiple times about me needing to justify subjective morality in order for you to see any difference between teaching a kid that hitting Timmy is wrong versus teaching him that actually ghosts exist, unicorns exist, fairies exist, gods exist, and you should devote your lives to them. You see those as equivalent and the same standard of evidence for both being taught to children. You see that as equivalent. And every time I ask you about that, you said, well, no, that's not exactly what I'm saying, but you won't say what you're saying.
Let me respond.
Because if that's not what you're saying, what are you saying?
I'm saying that your reason for telling little because dude, you're rattling on like crazy.
No, I'm explaining. You just don't know how to fucking listen, dude.
I get what you're saying. Dude, okay, listen to me. Now,
what did I just say?
You think that I get what you're saying, that, okay, telling somebody that ghosts exist and telling somebody that they shouldn't hit their neighbor are two, when you simplify it and reduce it to just that, yeah, it makes sense that one's a moral claim and one's like a metaphysical, supernatural, spiritual claim, okay? But let me break it down to you like this. You tell little Timmy not to hit little Jimmy because in this house, we believe in harm reduction. I tell little Timmy not to hit little Jimmy because we believe that little Jimmy's made in the image of God and you shouldn't violate that. You can't tell me by your standard why one is better than the other outside of your own personal
What if he stops believing in God and then beats the fuck out of little Timmy? Then what?
Okay, well, what if he listens to you and
the only reason he thought it was wrong was because of God. So it should be completely fine under your standard. He doesn't believe in God. What justification does he have to think that's wrong at all?
What if in your view he goes, I don't really like harm reduction. I like harm increase, and then he does it. Then what?
I like harm increase. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, dude, so you didn't answer my question. You did a tu quoque and turned it on me. I asked you a question and you dodged. Can you please answer my question now?
Because there's no substantive being that they're believing in that is faith-based that's going to make them instantly switch up. If something instantly switches up when you're rooting stuff in harm reduction or they're not caring about harm reduction, then it is something psychological that you can dive deeper into.
I'm pointing out that your
That's when you get to people with
sociopaths,
psychopaths, people with actual things, when trauma reactions, things that are wrong with somebody's brain that you can measure, look into, and see what went wrong so that you would desire this harm. You can actually look at that. Okay, it's come on.
No, but listen,
it doesn't make sense for you to equate that.
But here's my point. So in our two worldviews, right? In mine, our justification
I'm not justifying teaching my worldview.
Dude, let me finish, bro. Okay?
You're repeating.
No, dude, I'm pointing out something about these two.
I guarantee I've heard this point before. God. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, man. Well, then, if you've heard all the points, then why host a fucking debate live, okay?
Because I'm trying to get you to say something fucking different. And it's clearly pointless.
I think we're having a good conversation.
It's clearly pointless because you have your talking points. You've gone back to them over and over again. What's the difference between me telling my child that God exists and you telling your child not to hit little Timmy?
And I'm bringing up a new point.
Same. Me telling my child that ghosts are going to suck his soul out in the middle of the night is the exact same as you teaching about the scientific theory. I don't understand why you wouldn't think that they're equivalent and they wouldn't have the same burden of proof.
Okay, no.
You sound ridiculous.
No, okay, fine. I sound ridiculous. Now let me bring up another point to you. But
you're not addressing the difference there. You're never admitting that there's a difference there, and you're never justifying the fact that there's a difference there. You're just saying, you need to prove both. Guess what? Societally, we've evolved, and we have different morality today than we did back then. We've updated. We've argued. We've progressed. Okay, so what if there is social aggression. There are still people who believe in awful shit. That's why you tell them, you shouldn't be doing this because it's wrong. Because come on.
Wrong is a truth claim, dude. Or you admit it's an opinion.
Then you don't believe you can debate morality with anybody else. If you think it's the equivalent as raising your kid religious, because if you have a boundary socially between telling your child that God is okay and he has to accept that as truth in your household, and not doing that to your neighbor, then you should hold the same standard when it comes to your morality. You shouldn't be able to debate anybody outside your household about their morality because those are truth claims that you can't justify.
Well, first of all, you
shouldn't be able to debate anybody that isn't Christian if your morality is foundationalized in your religion. We shouldn't be having debate now under your framework.
You're sneaking stuff in there that I never said.
No, I'm using your words.
No, I never said that I would force. You can't force somebody to believe something, really. I mean, outside of torture and abuse.
Sure.
Sorry,
manipulate or
but I'm saying that
influence. Those are better words.
Yeah, no, I think that you can, again. So this is what I'm saying is that you can influence somebody to believe what you think is the truth, just like you think it's the truth that we should have harm reduction.
He's really going to say it again. He's really going to say it again.
I know, but dude, you're not hearing what I'm pointing out. Bruh.
You're not listening at all.
I'm listening to you, but you're not listening to me. You're not listening to my point.
What have I not responded to?
Again, if you would allow me to make a point here, okay?
You're making a point. You just said I wasn't listening.
Well,
what have I not responded to?
I'm just saying you threw in there that I'm going to force, that there's a force element versus just.
And you didn't like the language that I used. You said that it was wrong, and I updated it to say, okay, manipulate or heavily influence. Is that language acceptable to you?
Sure, but you also said it earlier in the debate that it's okay to teach your beliefs to your kids. So you're pointing out that these specific beliefs are somehow wrong, but in your worldview where everything is subjective, it's only wrong based off an opinion.
Are you just saying specific beliefs as it comes to spirituality? Because it's not just spirituality, it's radical claims that aren't proven, right? I would say the same things about flat earthers. I already made that point earlier. I don't know if you weren't listening or if you weren't registering that I said that, but it's things that we don't know to be true and telling people to just just accept it. Doesn't matter, accept it. Those are very different than teaching kids to be a good person under their own subjective views, because we give parents a lot of agency when it comes to that. I don't think we should when it comes to spiritual claims, because one, I believe that we should have spiritual freedom in this society, and a large portion of that society being manipulated or heavily pressured to believe what their parents believe undermines that. And I think that it's not actually true. A lot of people like to frame that they are giving their child complete freedom when it comes to their beliefs, even though they're telling them to go to the institution to affirm the beliefs, to pray, to understand that if they don't believe it, that there's going to be negative consequences for them in the afterlife, and that they should devote their entire lives according to it. But then say, oh, well, you can believe what you want to believe. I didn't force you to believe it. I didn't pressure you to believe it. A lot of people want to put up that front because they recognize that a certain level of influence over your child's religiosity is wrong. We just draw the line at different places. You don't address them in any of the points that you've said.
I hear you loud and clear. And I tried very hard to listen really good. And I do have ADD, so especially when you take a long time, I kind of trail off. But I'm hearing you. What I think the problem is, where the point of contention is, you want me to grant that teaching a kid right and wrong, which you've already admitted is subjective, is somehow something that we all just know inherently. And that I'm tacking on the God thing after the fact. Against this thing that we just inherently know. I'm pulling into question that we even just inherently know these things, but that isn't belief laden and isn't theory laden and isn't full of its own dogmatic presuppositions. So I'm asking you, why are those dogmatic presuppositions that we should just teach our kids right and wrong because right is good and wrong is wrong? How is that based on a subjective belief?
Because one is based on how the world works, and the other one is based on how we see human nature.
So how does the world work that we...
I don't need to provide that a God doesn't exist. I'm just saying you're trying to substantiate that one does, and that should not be a standard to set in a household.
How is you telling a kid that they shouldn't harm someone else?
I just said why it was different.
No, but I'm asking you a question. How is that not just a belief or an opinion?
They're both beliefs. You can have moral beliefs and spiritual beliefs. I said multiple times that those are different. And I don't know why you keep telling me that they're one's a belief, one's not. I said multiple times that they're both beliefs. I just think that you can have different standards for different kinds of beliefs. I think if somebody has a belief that yellow is their favorite color, I don't think you should be pressuring your child to believe the same. I think if you have a belief that a certain career path is best for your child, even if you believe that it is good for them, you shouldn't be pressuring your child to pursue that career to a certain extent. You can have it as an option. You can have it as an available thing and give resources so that they can pursue it. But I don't think you should be telling them to pursue it. I think there are things that we give people freedom on in society when it comes to certain moral things like political affiliation or beliefs in certain like preferences. And I think religiosity is something that we hold a lot of importance towards personal preference or personal belief, that you should not just be telling, well, actually, you don't get personal belief in that until you're a certain age, or you don't get the freedom of having, I don't even know what to say because you don't like the word forced. Like, you're pressuring your child to believe that this is true and telling them to live their lives according to it, but you don't want to use the word force.
I'm just saying, because I would do it.
I tell him to affirm it. It's like, if you don't like the word force, like, it's just the only distinction is arbitrary to me, because I wasn't asked my permission before I was brought to an institution to affirm your faith as an infant. I didn't even know the English language yet, but I was brought from the institution from that age until 15 to tell me that God is real and I'm supposed to accept it as my truth and live my life according to it. But suddenly I wasn't forced. I wasn't pressured. I wasn't manipulated into that belief system. Come on.
Yeah,
it's
I know,
so
but
commonplace.
I know, dude, but here's the only reason I get hung up on the force thing is that I don't think, number one, that it's very Christian, or number two, that anybody should punish their children if they have a Christian household and then they come to an age where they start asking questions and they go, hey, I don't know if I believe this. There's going to be influence, because obviously a parent's going to influence their child no matter what, but I don't think you should ever punish your kid for it. I think that would be fundamentally anti-Christian, because the Christian paradigm holds up free will and the choice to either follow God or not. However, what I'm pointing out is, so you've criticized this worldview by saying you're implementing a moral system in a metaphysical belief system, okay? And you brought up like the color yellow as a preference and how it's different from that. What I'm saying is, in your worldview, when you tell a kid from infancy that harm is wrong, it's only a preference. It's only a preference, no different than liking the color yellow. You can't actually give me anything more than a preferential reason for why you should tell a kid not to follow this harm principle thing that you have. And that's where I'm saying is, there's no standard by which you can say your preferential moral system that also has metaphysical implications is worse off than mine that is just literally your own preference.
You said the same thing again and did not address.
That's what I'm saying. You're not. So can you? Let me ask you a question. Can you tell me why? Why is harm in your view?
No.
Just answer the question.
You did not answer a single thing I said. You said I was not listening, but again, all of the points that I just made, you said, yeah, I heard that, and then repeated the exact same point you've made for the past 45 minutes. And all you're asking me to do is to objectively prove your moral framework wrong. When the thing is, if we both as human beings believe in harm reduction, whether you foundationalize that in a God or not, I should be able to tell you this is harmful for this individual, and you should be able to agree or disagree and give substantiation. But instead of providing any of that, all you're providing is, well, belief in a God is subjective, belief in morality is subjective. But the thing is, you don't teach everything to your child that you believe. And you didn't address that. I said that so many times, and I clarified that I said it so many times 2 seconds before what you responded with. I said, I'm trying to get you to address the fact that you don't teach your child to accept everything that you believe is right. Everything that you believe is true to you, right? And I was saying, where do you draw that line? Why do you substantiate that line there? Why do you bring that up there? That's why I brought up the color yellow, not to compare it to every religious upbringing or every religious truth. That wasn't the point of why I brought that up. I brought that up specifically to show that even you as a religious person who has a foundationalized belief in something objective draws a line somewhere in what you're telling your child to accept as truth, even though it's your personal belief that you're passing down to your child. If it's a career path, if it's your favorite color, if it's your own personal preferences, there is a line that you draw, and you did not distinguish to me why you draw those lines there, why you bring those arguments there. You didn't say any of that. I said that so many times, and all you said over and over and over again is provide objective substantiation as to why your subjective view of morality is better than my objective view of morality. That's what you said over and over again. Because, again, that wasn't the point of the conversation. I already said multiple times that moral frameworks can be debated. Debating about what is true when it comes to a God, those are in theological spaces. Those are different truth claims that are treated differently than scientific claims or moral claims. Those are different. And you know that. And I said you know that 45 minutes ago and you didn't address that. I said that you know that 20 minutes ago you didn't address it. I said it you know it 10 minutes ago you didn't address it. I said it you know it 5 minutes ago you didn't address it. I said you know it 2 minutes ago you didn't address it. I said it so many times over and over again, and you are not accounting for the fact that we treat these things differently in society and in households. You're not telling me why we do that. Why do we do that? Why do we treat the truth of a God differently than a truth of moral claims? Because you can disagree with your neighbor's morality, and you can treat them differently based on that morality. You can treat them differently based on how they view certain things. That is different than belief in a God, and you know that, and you're gonna treat that differently. I don't think you would think it's justifiably wrong to treat your neighbor poorly because they believe in a different God than you, but some people definitely can treat their neighbor poorly if they have different morals in them, if they're racist or homophobic or extremely bigoted or white supremacists. There's definitely things that you can treat people wrong about, but religion is something that we kind of respect people's beliefs on. Say, you have a right to believe this. You have a right to consider this your truth. We don't do that when it comes to a lot of moral claims because we consider ourselves evolved enough to understand morality through a human lens or through objective framework differently than when it comes to truth claims. And I don't know how many times I need to say that for you to address it at all. You didn't. I said it so many times. It's a broken record at this point. How many times do I have to say that we treat it differently in society for you to recognize that we treat it differently in society? All you're saying is, yeah, we treat it differently in society, but prove it. Prove your subjective moral framework to me for me to listen to a single fucking word that you're saying. Prove it. That's all you're saying over and over again, because you won't accept anything else. Because you think I'm telling you to throw away your morality when I'm telling you to recognize my moral argument on this moral debate of a TikTok live, to accept the harm reduction argument that we should both believe in of harm reduction, that it is harmful to set a standard in society that people do not have religious freedom. People do not have religious agency because you're allowing so many people from formative ages to be completely manipulated by their parents to accept their faith as the truth. Whether they change their minds later or not, you are telling them it's perfectly fine to tell your child to accept this framework as objective truth, which goes against my moral argument of religious freedom, which you did not address once at all. And your bad faith interpretation of my arguments and your disingenuous rebuttals to what I was saying, which didn't address shit that I said, is no longer going to be addressed. Because you weren't here in good faith and you weren't addressing the points that I was making at all. You were only addressing them enough to get back to your same point that you were making over and over again. I know you think that moral claims are truth statements, but they're subjective truth statements that we argue all the time. It's not the same as it when it comes to religion. I don't need to tell my neighbor to stop being Christian, but I should probably tell him to stop being racist, right? We treat them differently. Dear God. Well, why should you care about harm reduction? Maybe because humans should care about harm reduction. We've evolved to understand that compassion, empathy is productive for society and also should make you feel good. If it makes you feel it should make you feel good that you're nice to people, that you're compassionate, and that you don't want to cause harm to people. That's something we should understand. And if you don't, if you find joy in hurting Timmy, that's going to raise psychological flags that something might be not working correctly in your brain. And there's a reason for that that isn't rooted in scripture. And you were just never willing to address those points. And I was not about to repeat them a million more times before you addressed any aspect of them, because it was clearly just going to be repeat. I've addressed your point as much as I could. You could not see what I was saying. And that's very sad that you weren't willing to address that. But we can move on to somebody else. Is that sad to anybody else? I feel like I addressed this point as best as I could so many times, and it was just the same point over and over. I said, I understand that you see truth claims and moral claims as the same, but it's different because. And I feel like I explained it like 17 different ways, and just nothing was ever good enough. And he wasn't willing to address any of the other logic I was providing because that's all he wanted to talk about, and it was all he could address, ever. It's just so sad. It's so sad when they can't listen to any of the other words that I'm saying or any of the arguments that I'm trying to justify to him, because all he can do is address that one point that I feel like I'm addressing as much as I can, and you're just saying, no, it doesn't work for me. I'm like, come on, dude. It doesn't destroy my position. I've justified it so many times. You just won't accept it. Well, it's just rooted in your opinion. It's just rooted in your opinion. It's rooted in a lot of people's opinions that we argue are optimal or less optimal in a society and update societal moral frameworks over time. I think that's different than that saying a God existed how many thousand years ago? If you think that's the same, power to you, brother. Margot, it's sad that you haven't known because I've explained it so many times, but his arguments were not addressing what I was arguing at all. Because all he was saying is teaching about morality is the same. You should be able to provide equal justification for teaching about morality than teaching about a God existing or spiritual truth claims. That you should be able to provide the same substantiation for teaching about ghosts existing as you do about being nice to your neighbor. You should be able to provide that in order for me to accept any criticism of his religious upbringing. That's what he was telling me to provide over and over again. And I was just saying we should have a standard society that you should be able to believe what you want to believe when it comes to gods or spirituality, when it comes to like truth claims about spiritual things, like a soul existing. And he didn't address that at all. At all. Because all he was saying is that's equivalent to teaching about morals. He didn't address it. He just said, but what's the difference? And then I say, well, this is the difference. 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 And then he's like, but you're not saying it because it destroys your fucking argument. Like, dude, how many times do I have to say this is the difference before you accept the fact that I'm trying to explain the difference to you? Jesus. It's so fucking dumb. And no, you're not being let back up because you're fucking rude as fuck in the comments. And I don't care. Fuck you, ho.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? How old are you?
I'm 18.
What year were you born?
2006.
How to think about it.
No, I didn't. Alright.
That's a child. That is a child. Sorry. Child. I'm also just done with the fucking freshly 18-year-olds because they all talk shit like fucking red pillars. They don't fucking debate good at all, ever. Another person who sent a request and scrolled. Nice.
Hello.
Hi, how old are you for TikTok guidelines?
35.
All right, what topic do you want to discuss?
I'll pick the body count one. I find it a weird coping mechanism. I don't understand it. Why does it not matter? It does matter. It doesn't make sense.
Why are you assuming it's a coping mechanism?
Because it doesn't make sense.
What's the coping mechanism?
Saying it doesn't matter.
My moral claim that body count doesn't matter is a coping mechanism to me accepting that it does.
I don't know.
You're just saying I'm right, you're wrong, you're coping. Is that your argument?
No, I'm saying what I'm saying.
Okay, then you should probably make your argument.
I did. I said it's a coping mechanism because.
But you just said that wasn't your argument. It's just what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm saying the words I'm saying. I'm not saying the words you're saying back to me. The things you're saying.
I just repeated what you said.
I'm saying.
But I just repeated what you said.
No, you didn't.
What did I say wrong?
Clearly, it's a coping mechanism because it does matter. To say it doesn't matter is the coping mechanism.
But that's exactly what I said. That's exactly what I said.
Okay. Do you disagree?
I just said that you're claiming that body count doesn't matter is a coping mechanism because body count matters. And you said yes. And then I said, is that your argument? You said no. But it is your argument because you told me to respond to it as if it was your argument. So what is it?
My argument is my argument, sir. I've said it 3 times now.
Okay, that's a little circular. I just repeated your argument back to you, and you're telling me to respond to something that you said yourself was not your argument, and then you asked me to respond to what exactly I said to you. You understand how that's conflicting messages, right?
My argument is that the position that body count doesn't matter is a nonsensical coping mechanism.
Cool. So basically, I'm right, you're wrong, you're coping and dumb. And then you're saying, response? Why am I supposed to take that seriously? I repeated exactly what you said back, and I said, is that your argument that you want me to respond to? And you said no. It's not my argument, it's just what I'm saying. Then what is your argument? And then you repeated exactly what I said to you. Like, buddy, is your genuine argument that you want to respond to is you're coping? Because I'm looking for a debate. Not shit talk. Like, babe, let's be a little for real. 3 times your argument didn't change, but your response to what I said that you said did. Because at first you said it wasn't an argument, then you said it was your argument by repeating the exact same thing I said to you back to me. And then said, that's my argument, respond to it. And then I said, I just said that to you. And you said that wasn't your argument. So make it make sense. Make it make sense. Oh, how do I turn that off? Yeah, fuck that. I don't need to respond to your argument that I'm coping because I don't think that's a substantive argument as to why I'm wrong. I don't think you know my justification as to why it's wrong, and you try to get ahead by saying whatever you say, it's coping. And I feel like that's just a bad faith approach to a debate. So you can debate the comments, babe. Y'all tap the screen, share the live, get more people in here. Trying to get more genuine debates. You aren't wrong, it's your beliefs. What is that arguing against? Because you were agreeing with that other guy that was religious up here. You were agreeing with everything he was saying he was making good points and that he was proving me wrong. And then you had to ask what my stance was. I don't think he was proving me that wrong if you couldn't even understand what my stance was. Kieran, you just said your argument was not that I'm coping and then explained that it was coping for me to disagree with you. Let's get on the same page. That is what you said. That's wild. The level of inability to understand what you said is wild. Are you sober, babe? Because I'm drinking and out debating you. Hey, how are you?
Hey.
Hi, what topic do you want to discuss?
Probably the LGBTQ, something like that. I don't really care about that part, but like that.
How old are you?
I am...
It's a lot of thought.
13.
18 or older. Y'all, TikTok community guidelines. You have to be 18 or older to be in the live. Otherwise, live gets taken down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. What's wrong with teaching children religion? Like, what's wrong with that?
I think as a society, we should respect people's individual beliefs. And I think religion should be one of those individual beliefs that we aren't prescribing or passing down. It's something that should be individually searched.
Oh, so individually, like, not by, like, what do you mean by that? Like teaching them or just teaching them individually?
Wait, what's that? What was the last part?
What do you mean by that? Like teaching religion to a child it shouldn't happen. That's what you're trying to say.
Well, you can teach it without making them religious. Like, I learned about plenty of religions growing up in school through an objective lens rather than a subjective one that wanted me to agree with their interpretations and accept it as my truth. I think those are two very different things. I think you can learn that religions exist. Telling a child to accept a religion as their truth and live their life according to it heavily influences the religiosity of adults. And I think if we have a standard that people should have freedom to believe what they want to believe in this society, this goes against that by heavily influencing the religiosity of so many people in this country.
Nah, but though, to be honest, but don't you like a lot of parents want their child to believe in the same thing that they believe? They're just passing down their beliefs because they're born into it and they have to inherit the religion. So
Do you
I
think
don't understand why
there are some traditions that like shouldn't be passed down? Like whether it's making your kid go hunt animals in the woods, or whether it's like getting like a lot of people are bringing up the debate about circumcision and everything. It's like, oh, some things just like you should make. There are moral claims to be made that some people should be able to decide certain aspects of their life. And I think this is one of those aspects you should be able to decide. So I think that some people can believe it's best for their child. I think regardless of whether you think it's best for your child, I don't think you should agree that it's okay to influence somebody's religiosity, especially at formative years.
But to be honest, in our religions, like the Abrahamic faith, we have to like God told us like if we have children, we have to make them like carry on the legacy of that religion. To be honest.
And if a religion told the parents to chemically castrate their children, I would still tell them it's wrong. I could have moral disagreements that disagree with a religious view.
Yeah, you think it's wrong that they're making them like circumcision and castration, like you said. You think it's wrong?
Circumcisions?
Yeah.
I do. I think that there's room for interpretation depending on what age that circumcisions become dangerous or more medical complications. But I think you should wait off, and if there's an ability for that child to decide whether they want to be circumcised or not, I think that should be given.
Nah, I don't think that should be because circumcision is kind of a thing that in the Abrahamic faith, circumcision is the most important thing to do. It's a tradition that has been passed down for thousands of years.
Okay, so is child marriage for a lot of families. Do you think that's okay?
No, it's not. But back
So
in the
why
day, it
can
was
you
like
disagree with that, but I can't
10,000
disagree
years
with
ago,
circumcision?
it was.
Why can you disagree with that, but I can't disagree with circumcision?
Say that again.
Why can you disagree with child marriage, which was also a tradition passed down for centuries, but I can't disagree with circumcision?
Because child marriage was like back in like the middle ages, before the Middle Ages.
That's not a breaker
okay.
of any of the logic that I provided. It's just saying it was old. It's like that doesn't substantiate anything. Why is it wrong?
Why is it wrong with circumcision?
Yeah, the whole idea about child marriage being wrong is that people should have personal choice over who they love, that they should have agency over their lives. Do you not think that an argument against circumcision is an argument of autonomy or agency over what happens to your body?
Autonomy, to be honest.
Yeah, so why is that an invalid argument just because you want to keep a tradition that I don't believe in?
Because the child's gonna look at the parent and he's gonna copy the same ways as the parents are doing. So it's not always us that are forcing it, it's them that want to, follow our footsteps. Because children, they look at us like they want like any sort of our behavior, they look at us. So yeah. If you get what I'm saying.
I don't think that makes it right or wrong. There are plenty of kids who are more likely to be abusers because their parents hit each other. I don't think that makes it right. I don't think that makes it right. Just because their parents do something doesn't automatically make it right or moral.
By the way, when I took religion serious, I was like the age of 7, because I've been watching my mom how she takes her religion serious, and I got influenced. So
You
what
were
you're saying is
convinced by
kind of
your parent to have
influence.
religious affirmation. That I think that shouldn't have happened. I think
No, it was
if you want to
influence, to
take
be
religion
honest.
seriously, it should be your decision, not because you saw somebody in your family that you wanted to make proud, get affection from. Do you know how many kids use religious affirmation as a way to get close to their parents? Do you think that's any way to treat truth claims when it comes to what's real or true about the universe? If my mom was a flat earther, I might be more likely to believe in a flat earth. Does it mean I should have been influenced towards believing in a flat earth at a young age? No. I think there are truth claims that we can see differently, that should not be pressured on children, that you should come to those truths of your own if you consider the evidence to be substantive, or you can find your own reason to believe in it. I don't think those reasons should be decided for you when it comes to faith.
But it's the parents' decisions to decide what they want for their child, to be honest. So
Yeah, but that didn't respond to anything I said. I said it should not be decided for them because, and you just said, but it should. You're not saying why.
I'm not saying why.
Yeah, you're not saying why your framework is right and mine is wrong. You're just saying, but it's good.
Because the reason why you think it's wrong, because well, I think it's wrong what you're saying, because children they like their parents, they love their parents so much and want to make them proud and want to carry on their legacy. So
That justifies any cult, any tradition, anything.
what cult?
Why
That's
does it
not a
make
cult.
yours right and child marriage wrong? Because that's the same thing when it comes to child marriage. Well, I want to get married at 7 because it'll make my parents proud, and they just want to pass it down to me. They just want to pass down
How do
their
you say
morals
I
to
have
me.
cult
Doesn't
mentality?
make it right.
It's not cult mentality. It's just like to carry on
You're not addressing my
the family's
logic.
legacy.
You're repeating your point and not addressing what I'm saying.
What am I not addressing?
I said that your logic that, oh, well, they just want to make their parents proud doesn't make it right or okay. Like in the example of abuse, like in the example of child marriage, like in the example of circumcision. I gave substantive reasonings as to why you can consider that wrong, even though the parents believe it to be right and moral. You aren't addressing that.
I don't have an answer, so I don't know what to say.
I don't think you're well equipped for this debate. All right, have a good night. He wasn't responding to anything that I was saying. At least he was being respectful. Next. Children are raised by their parents, but then go out into the world and choose their own way. Sure. Why do you need to influence their way as an adult so much by influencing them about truth claims as infants? I don't need to make my kid believe that yellow is the best color as an infant. Why do you need to make them believe that God is true as an infant? I don't care if it's important to you. Why does it need to be important to them? Really? Plead to authority, Margot? No, I don't have children. I was only a child raised in this exact framework that I'm arguing against. Since I existed in that framework that I'm arguing against the morality of, do I have your permission to debate it? Or do you think a parent's inflated sense of ego that they can make their child believe whatever they want to believe makes them more qualified than me? Then why bring up having kids? That's the only reason you would bring that up. What's the other reason? Because people just say, well, you don't have kids, so you just don't understand. Well, I'm right, you're wrong, because you haven't had kids. It's a plea to authority. It's by saying, I don't need to prove you wrong, I'm just telling you you're wrong. Y'all, tap the screen, share the live, get more people in here. I want somebody to substantially prove to me why it's okay to influence somebody's spirituality as a child, but then you want to feign freedom when they're an adult. Because it's so important to them that they don't come across as forcers of religion, but then suddenly they need to raise their kid to affirm that faith. They need to have the ability to raise their kid believing in that religion. Margot, you were agreeing with that religious person the entire time. I don't know why you're trying to say I'm not telling you that I'm wrong.
Hey, dude.
You have a lot of background noise and you came in like a troll, so please fix that and then send another request. If you disagree, feel free to send a request. Hi, how are you? Hello?
Hello?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. What's your thoughts?
I'm not saying you're wrong. At all.
Why were you agreeing with the religious person about
They're
religion?
not wrong either.
How can we both be right? Our positions are diametrically opposed.
But you keep talking about morals or morality, and morals are an individual inner self feeling. They're not.
I only brought up morality to differentiate to him that moral teaching is different than religious teaching. And he wouldn't want to accept that. That's the only reason morality kept being brought up, is because whenever I question people raising their kids in a religion, they say, well, it's this exact same thing as you raising your kid to be a moral person. And I say, no, the distinguisher is the truth claims in the religiosity when it comes to like claims of things being factually true, when it comes to a God existing or a soul, or that if you do this action, you'll have this result. And that's what I'm saying. It is wrong to have that as a foundation on somebody who does not understand how any of that works or cannot understand what they are committing themselves to. Because you are telling them to commit their lives to this thing. It's not just, well, you can believe in this like you believe in Santa that you know you're going to not believe in one day, and that is not going to be taken as a lifelong commitment. This is something that people take as lifelong commitments, and they observe that in the real world, right?
The majority of the children that are raised in that strict religious upbringing, they'll stick with it. I agree.
There's actually a term for it too when it comes to Abrahamic religions being sticky. There's a heavy influence of religiosity in society based on what faith they're being raised in and the methodology that's used.
But you also have to remember there's certain kids out there, like I was raised in Anglican, turned United. I was going to convert to Catholicism. I didn't because that upset me. But I made my own choice.
At what age?
Teens, 16, 15, 16.
I think that is well above the age of being able to understand this concept of religion and have resources to pursue it. I just think that around the ages of 10 to 12, if a kid is showing interest in a religion or any religiosity, even 8, I would say, just give them the resources to pursue it if they want to. Just don't make it mandatory, because that's what raising a kid religious is telling them believe it. It's not telling them, oh, well, here's the resources, you can pursue it if you want. No, they're telling you it's real and that it's true and to devote their life to it.
If a kid comes out and says, hey, I want to go check out my friend's church,
then I would say that's okay. Give them resources to pursue other religions as well, so that they understand that it's not a one-track mind. Because kids can get sucked into that stuff really quickly. Just like if I was presented with Muslim faith rather than the Christian faith I was growing up in, if I was only presented with Muslim faith, I would get sucked into that a lot quicker and a lot less critical thought than if I was presented with multiple options, right? If I was told about oh, this is Buddhism, this is Christianity, this is atheism, this is a lot of people are agnostic, they don't need to make decisions on this. Because I was raised in a society or in a household and community that was told that everyone around me is making these decisions and I should be making these decisions too, when I didn't really have any personal interest in wanting to make those decisions. That is heavily pressured on people growing up in religious households.
You were lucky. Like the majority of people out there, kids growing up, they're growing up in one faith.
I was raised in one faith as well. It was a hypothetical.
Oh, okay. But kids are raised in their parents' beliefs, their parents' morals. They don't have an option of everybody else's until they get to a certain age.
And I'm saying people exert too much pressure when it comes to certain things.
Yes,
I think
definitely.
they're exerting too much pressure when it comes to religion. I think the average religious upbringing is exerting far too much pressure to believe in their faith. They are not telling you this is a possible truth that we personally believe in that you can pursue if you would like. Nobody's fucking saying that. They're telling you to pray. They're telling you to go to the institution to affirm it. And they're telling you to accept it as your truth and devote your life to it. That is extreme. That is the average upbringing in a religion. It is extreme. And it is not just an option. It's pressured and 100% manipulative.
I have a question for you, though. What about children that are raised with no religious beliefs?
As long as you're not telling them that the religious beliefs are false, I don't have an issue with that. Because I'm atheist agnostic. I don't want to raise somebody saying God isn't real. I don't like that. I don't like that because it turns them away from the possibility of pursuing truth for themselves. In the same way that telling them that God is real and true, it's a specific God, is turning them away from the possibility that other gods might be true or no God might be true. Or it could just be an energy or a different force or something like that. I think that these are things that are extreme in our world and radical and not just everyday beliefs. And I think they're being treated as such. I really think they're being treated as such that it's just like, well, it's shit most people believe, so believe it. That's how it's being taught majority of the time.
I agree.
And I disagree with that framework because I want more people to have religious agency because one, I think people will treat different religious people with more respect and kindness and understanding if they have that precedence in a society. And two, it'll combat the ability for religion to act with a superiority complex and act as if everybody should succumb to their religious beliefs. Because I think that this idea that, oh, well, I can make my child believe what I want to believe, it's just right, it's true. I think it's best, so why shouldn't I push it forward? Well, it's what I think is true and right. Why shouldn't I vote on it? It's what I think is true and right. Why shouldn't I make laws about it? And then what that comes to is limiting other people's religious freedoms for their religious gain.
So you're okay with everybody else's beliefs as long as they respect yours?
I think people should have their religious beliefs and they should stay in their religious spaces. That's the same for atheists as well. I just think that it is unproductive to tell people in society or in the household what to believe when it comes to a God existing or ghosts or spiritual claims like that. I don't like it. I think that
no one truth.
What was that?
Are you saying there's no one truth? You believe that everyone has the right to believe in their...
Well, I'm not saying there's one truth. I'm thinking that under my framework, it could be multiple.
You're saying there's not one truth. You're saying it's okay.
It's not making a claim about how many truths there are. That's what I'm saying. It's not making any answers when it comes to spiritual claims because I don't think that we can come to those answers. Whether God exists or doesn't exist, or it's multiple gods or none, or both claims are existing in tandem. I don't think that any of those can be answered. So I think that they should be left up to the individual and not prescribed by parents or society.
Your kids will be well raised.
I don't want kids, but thank you.
Oh. Well, how are you going to make the world better?
Through legislation and societal influence.
They don't.
I'll probably be long dead before that, but yes.
Yeah, they don't believe us, but
they don't believe us. They don't.
You have the right idea.
Yeah, I think a lot of people see my view as very antagonizing towards religion when I apply it to atheism as well. It's just like atheism usually isn't brought up until like 45 minutes in the conversation until I have to say that like, oh, it applies to me too. Like, I don't want to make my child believe exactly what I want to believe when it comes to spirituality either, because I don't believe in a God existing, but I don't want to tell them that because I want them to have the freedom to believe in a God, because I respect my Christian friends as they should respect me. And I think if you respect your Christian friends, you should want your child to also have the freedom to possibly pursue that religion if they want to. I think if you don't want somebody pursuing something, whether it comes to a cult, whether it comes to like Satanism, depending how you view it, whether it comes to like certain conspiracy theories, I think that we address that societally. We say like, no, don't do that. And I think that should be proportional when it comes to religion. I think people have this idea in society that like, oh, well, you have your right to your beliefs. You should be able to pursue your beliefs and believe them and have your own spaces and have that respect there, and harm should not come to you. I think that people aren't acting accordingly.
So get rid of the older folks, the older way of thinking of things, and get the new line of thinking in.
I think this is newer than majority of newer thinking, because even majority of like very liberal thinking people still disagree with me on this. It's like the subsect of people that were raised religious and didn't like it. Those are the people that actually think about this and care about it because they weren't burdened by being raised in a religion they did not like or felt was detrimental to their health or mental health.
Now, do you think religion is running us right now, or?
I think that the fact that people can argue that people should be in politics based on their religious affiliation to bring back a certain religious value is enough to say that religion is permeated way too deep into society and has too much control over decisions.
Good for you. Good for you.
Thank you.
Keep talking, like way out there. Keep it going.
All right. I was pleasantly surprised by how respectful you were, because some of your comments got me a little nervous, but we're
respectful. I don't curse. I don't swear. I'm very respectful. Whatever anyone believes is their belief, and they're entitled to that. It can't be wrong because it's what they believe.
All right. Well, thank you for being so nice up here. I appreciate it. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you. Enjoyed that.
Have a good night.
How do I get out of here?
I got you. Don't worry about it. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right. That was very nice. See, I return energy. If you're nice, I'll be nice. If you're mean, I'll be mean. Let's see.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. What topic do you want to discuss?
Almost all of them. So,
Pick your favorite.
Or we could start with. Let's go with this body count doesn't matter.
What's your thoughts on it?
So I feel like it does matter, but that's all a matter of perspective on the person. I feel.
And to clarify, I do make a couple exceptions, but in majority, I think that the argumentation around body count is rooted in purity culture and misogyny.
Okay, I can understand that. The way that I see it more is about. I think that some people, if they're looking for someone who has less experience and they want to grow with that person, and we're talking about body count, so sexually, they want to grow with that person, they learn what they want, and they want to, in the same way that they say, sometimes knowing more, what's the word? Sometimes knowing more can hurt you, or sometimes there's certain things that I don't know. I feel like it depends.
I feel like that perspective only comes around from people who are virgins or have a heavily religious mindset, because a lot of this idea of like, oh, well, I want it to be special, I want my first time to be special or super romantic, comes from people who are very nervous about it and say like, well, I'm really nervous about it. So if the other person's like super as nervous as me, it's very reassuring to me that I'm not going in like feeling embarrassed about how I'm performing or what I'm doing. I feel like that is a mindset centered around some kind of insecurity about how you might perform in the bedroom or how you might be judged for it. And I think that is something that people kind of get over if they have sexual experience. I think most people who have sexual experience don't really have the jitters about any of that. And I think once you get past that hurdle, a lot of people care a lot less about whether you're coming into the bedroom completely new or not.
No, I agree with you. I personally am a person who has a body count that is higher. I've been with multiple partners, but the way that I see it is that if I were to go back before I knew certain things that I know now, would I be happier not knowing that I wanted certain things? Is ignorance bliss in certain circumstances? And when you have a partner that also has that sort of mindset, I mean, do you not know what you're missing will you miss what you don't know that you're missing? Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, can you explain that a little differently?
As in, let's say you go back to a point where you're more excited by simpler things. You don't know, this is what I want sexually. This is what I enjoy. This is the new things that I want. This, that, and the third, right? If when you have more body counts and you meet different people who bring you different experiences, then you start to learn who you are, right? But in some senses of it, would you say that ignorance is bliss? That some people believe
I feel like that's kind of
simpler.
Like the child mindset,
do you get what I'm
right?
saying?
Like, that's kind of the child mindset, right? Like when you go to the playground, it feels so much smaller than when you were a kid. Everything feels a little more gray than when you were a kid, a little less vibrant. That kind of idea that like, oh, well, now that you're accustomed to seeing it or that you have more experience or knowledge, things are a little less fun, a little less lively or whatever. And I understand that mindset, but I think that like this idea of like growing together has only been used as a justification for women, not really men, when it comes to the bedroom. And I think that that is kind of the point that I'm coming to, is that like a lot of these mindsets are centered around this idea that like somebody should remain pure for marriage. And I think that's the only reason that these emotional attachments come to that.
I see where you're coming from when it comes to like the reason why that is a issue. I'm just saying I can see where it can be a benefit as well. That's all I'm trying to say.
I think that people have this romanticized view of sex as well when it comes to princes and princesses, or how we were raised romanticizing all of this and seeing it as so special. But I also think that there's a culture that comes with it when it comes to somebody who gives it up easy. Oh, they must not have a romantic view of it. They must not see it as special. They must have less self-respect or something. There's so much stigma when it comes to it.
Yeah, I disagree with that. Yeah. I get what you're saying.
The majority of reasons as to why people care about it. That's why I'm saying I can make exceptions. If you think it's something that should remain emotional and that's super emotional to you, yeah, I think you can have that idea that it's super emotional, but assuming that somebody who has a high body count isn't going to see it as emotional is an assumption. I think that a lot of people who have sex for fun outside of relationships can still have sex for very emotional, intimate reasons within relationships, and you shouldn't apply those standards equally, right?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Because one's with a stranger, one's with somebody you love or like.
Yeah, absolutely. I can agree with that.
And I think if more people, I think if you separated the stigma from it, 99% of people wouldn't give a shit about body count, if I'm being honest.
No, most people wouldn't care about body count. I just see it. The only thing that I see it being beneficial for is that if, like I said, that childlike mindset where things are less gray and maybe that person wants to stay inside that framework and maybe they want to be with someone who's also in that framework.
Yeah, and I think you can stay inside that framework. I just think that I would still call into questions any judgments you make about somebody who isn't outside, that is outside that framework, right?
Yeah,
that's majority of the issue that I have.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Is there another topic you want to discuss? I think we pretty much agree on that one.
Yeah, there's the other, so pro LGBTQ education. When you say that, I mean, I'm not against any LGBTQ stuff, but I don't know if the word is the way that
What curriculum do you disagree with? Like, what do you think is going to be taught that you think is wrong?
I don't think anything would be taught that's wrong. It's just, I mean, the same way that I would, if my child, let's say, they see two men holding hands, kissing, whatever the case is, right? I have a daughter, and she said, "Daddy, what's that?" I would say, "Those are two men that love each other. This is what that is. That's all it is." I'll just explain it as what it is.
And if that's explained in a classroom, what's the issue?
I don't have an issue with it explained in a classroom setting. It's just as long as it's explained just in that way, I guess. I would just explain it very agnostically, as if it's just like, this is just a thing. Like there's people, all types of people who are all different types of ways, and this is just another type of person.
And I think there's personal bias that comes into it every time. Like when I was taught that, like, oh, having a baby is such a beautiful thing. It's a miracle. It's like, I think there's personal subjectivity that comes to the way it's taught, but I think the facts of what's being taught, you can't deny. And it's like, it shouldn't be debatable that this should be optional education that people should just exclude, because that leads to people having very bigoted views of us, or like othering by exclusion of education. Because if one is a taboo topic and the other is commonplace, that creates a lot of stigma how to one is treated and the other.
It's more than just
like, if we're only teaching about people that are blonde and brown haired in society, do you not think that would create more stigma towards red haired people?
No, I agree. It's more than just bigoted, it's ignorant. You don't want to have people raised where they go and just don't understand what that is. And I mean, if they see it, they should know what it is. So,
and I think the majority of what people argue against when it comes to the education is just like these little books that they see teaching equality and like being respectful towards people that are different than them. And I don't see any issue with that.
Yeah, I don't see issue with those either. I've seen some over the top try, like it's the over the top.
I think anything you see that's over the top, we would majoritively also disagree with. I think if it's anything to do with BJs, anything to do with like top surgery to like kindergartners, I think majority of us would agree that those are older age topics that should be in like sex ed or in later education.
Yeah,
I think a lot of what you're arguing against like would be fear mongering, and most people would argue should not be in objective education.
Absolutely. Like if it's just this is what it is, there's people like this, I'm fine with that.
Great. So what I'm thinking about when it comes to LGBTQ education, it is K through 12, and that is daunting to a lot of people, but it's incremental, right? When it comes to kindergarten, it's like good touch, bad touch, safe, unsafe touch, however you define it. You shouldn't just be looking out for adults of the opposite sex. Nobody should be touching you in your no square, right? That's absolutely including LGBTQ topics inherently by including all adults and not just ones of the opposite sex. And then if you're talking about parental structure, if somebody in the classroom has a father, not just a father and a mother, that shouldn't be excluded from the classroom because some parents think it's taboo. And then when it comes to ages around literature, if there's a prince and a prince rather than a prince and a princess, I don't think that should be excluded from literature just because some parents think it shouldn't be morally encouraged, because the prince and a princess was morally encouraged to me as a child, even though I didn't subscribe to that sexuality, right? So, and then there's that. And then I think when it comes to the science classroom, it has benefit in biological argumentation of homosexuality existing in many animal species, and that should not be excluded from the classroom. And then when it comes to history, if a political figure has a certain sexuality, I don't think that should be excluded. I think it's so relevant to so many topics and should not be watered down or excluded from education, because I think that the majority of the people that are arguing that is to push a religious narrative or to protect their child's view so that they only see it through a religious narrative. And if you look at my second point, I think that is also wrong.
Though I do believe I see religion more as a cultural lens into spirituality that people choose to go down. But like you said, there's also cult-like mentalities. Yeah, there's cult-like mentalities in each. So you can choose to be very strict with it, but you should always educate your child on this is what we believe, like your family, your mother, your father.
I think 99.99999% of religious people don't do that. I think 99.99999% of people don't say this is what we believe. I think they're saying Jesus loves you. I think they're saying this religion is true, affirm it. I don't think they're giving a lot of option when it comes to the way they communicate it. And if they do, I think it's likely from houses that are pagan or agnostic, or people that have heavy respect towards the freedom of religion due to their past experiences. I think those are pretty much the only times that is really granted.
For me, it's more of an education thing. I was always taught okay, this is where Catholicism came from. This is where Islam came from. This is where Judaism came from, because these are historical things.
And so I want that taught in schools. I want that taught in schools under historical educational lens. I just think when it comes to being introduced into a religion, which is raising them religious, it's not just teaching them that religion exists. It's telling them to perform acts that affirm this specific faith.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if as long as you're educated of all religions historically, a lot of that problem will go away on its own.
Because the ignorance towards other religions in this country is fucking insane. And if we had more objective education about other beliefs and how people come to them, I think there would be a lot more respect towards other beliefs as well, and less Christian nationalism.
Yeah, no, I mean, if anything, Catholicism is the newer religion of the three I just mentioned. They all have Abrahamic roots back to ancient Sumer. They all come from the same thing. So it's just really about who wrote what book. I mean, and the interpretation of each. when it comes down to it.
And Abrahamic beliefs are sticky religions, in the sense that if you were raised in those beliefs, you are very likely, compared to other beliefs, to stay in that belief, probably because of the moral teachings around it and the fear-mongering about not believing in it. And also, if you're leaving one of them, it is very likely for you to hop to another one of them, like of the Abrahamic faiths, rather than leave to a different religion like Buddhism or Satanism or anything, because of the sticky nature of like, oh, well, it's just a tweaking. They just got this wrong here, or they just got a little thing wrong here, and this interpretation of it fits my framework better, rather than saying, oh, I believe this to be false and this to be true. You know what I mean?
Yeah. At the end of the day, the way I see religion is more of like a moral guideline to aid people with different things. I mean,
which is wrong.
It's a bad thing.
I agree. I think that's wrong. I think that's why I think that religion is being taught in such a flippant way, rather than being treated as what it is. It's radical theories about the origin of the universe. Why, like, depending on the religion, of course, there are some religions that don't make it as many spiritual claims, or any. But like, when I'm talking about raising your kids religion, I'm talking about the spiritual claims about the origin of the universe, how humanity came to be, ghosts existing, spirits existing, your soul existing, a god existing, things in this world we cannot comprehend under our current human framework or understanding. And it's just being taught as if it's fact. I think that's fucking weird. I don't think we should be doing that with things that are so integral to how we view our existence. These are like the big questions. This is like our entire perception of life. And we're telling people at the age of 4 or under to accept our view of the entire world as truth and fact. I think that's batshit, personally.
No, I agree. I'm personally a religious person, but I wasn't always. I was raised Catholic, and I was actually an atheist throughout all of my religious teachings as a child. And I came to my own religious beliefs and like my deep spirituality as an adult. But that is a different case. I agree with you, because as a child, I said this doesn't make any sense. Like, Jesus is like Santa Claus to me. He's not real. It didn't make sense to me. But
the thing is, that's not what I'm arguing. Majority of kids don't understand if it makes sense or not, because they're only subject to partial of the teachings, because a lot of it is inappropriate. Yeah. You only have a subjective, personal view of religion, and if you're introduced to it at extremely young ages, it warps your view of these truth claims, because you're being taught it at such young ages, at the same ages you're being taught about the alphabet, about learning the language that you're growing up in. It's like, it's so foundationalized as to what you believe is true or false in the world, that you're just like, well, yeah, it's true. I don't need to think about what evidence I need to support it. It's true. And that's like a mindset you have from formative years of your youth, which I think is so manipulative and so
the issue
wrong.
Is that at the end of the, I feel like what it is that you can't let religion replace formal education when it comes to those subjects. And you have to be able to say, this is what we know as far as this thing goes. And this is what religion is.
And I think education about those subjects is incremental as well, due to the level of understanding that they're able to have about it. And I think that's okay to understand and recognize how much cognitive functioning we have growing up to understand certain topics. And I think introducing somebody to the topic of religion that you have to censor heavily, because majority of it is so complex that it's not able to like understand, or it's inappropriate at early ages, should be a signifier that maybe you should wait until later ages, until they're introduced to something that they're supposed to be committing their lives to. Is that such a radical thing to say?
No, I just think, I don't know. I don't have an issue with religion with kids, like them being young, but I do see where you're coming from. I feel that there should be...
What's your disagreement with it?
My disagreement is with, I believe that religion can be taught to children when they're being raised young, but my disagreement is that I see where you're coming from. I think that you need to have like a real formal educational teacher in the room too, saying, okay, like for instance, this is what we know about space. This is what we know about the sky. This is what we know about the universe, how it was formed, and so on and so forth.
But that's not how religion is taught.
And this is what religion teaches you.
That's just not how religion is taught.
It's not, but it should be taught that way.
But then, again, you're not making the argument of raising kids religious. You're making the argument of educating them about the concept of religion in general. What I'm arguing is raising them religious is
religiously
wrong.
specific.
Those are two different things. I feel like
I could agree with that. Then.
Sean, I really want to explain this because I explained this earlier. I said it's very different to teach them in an educational setting that this is what we know about religion versus you should be agreeing with this personal faith, because that's what raising them religious is telling them God is real, believe it, affirm it. It is not telling them, well, this is my personal belief. You can believe it if you want. You don't need to. But here are some resources in case you want to pursue it or not. That's not raising them religious. That's raising them with the option of religion. Those are two very different things.
I see what you're saying. And we agree on the separation of church and society. There's no reason for, they're two different things. They don't need to be together. I agree with that completely. That third point.
Yeah, because inherently connecting one religion to society is saying that the other religions are less valid or should be held with less weight in society, which I think is so disrespectful. I don't want to make all of society atheists. I think it should be secular to protect the religious rights of everybody.
I do see where there are, well, at least I feel like that should be the case in America. I do see other countries where they're like, you know, all Muslim countries or all the Jewish state or whatever the case is. And if that is what you want to do, if that's the culture that you want to raise in your society and the morals that you want abroad in your society, then that's on you. You can do that. And the people that agree with them can live there and people who don't can leave. But I feel like I don't
like the argument of majority though, because I think even if atheists are the majority, I don't think that all of society should be atheist either. Even though I'm agnostic atheist, I want people to have religious freedoms, and I think making all of society say that God isn't real would be harmful to religion.
I agree.
I don't want to harm religion.
I can see why some people have these pockets of beliefs where there's societies all across the world, like Muslim nations, Jewish nations, whatever kind of nations, Hindu nations, parts of India that are specifically Hindu, whatever it is, if that's what they want around them, if that's what then they can do that. But I don't personally want to live in that sort of society.
Yeah, but we're not talking about. We're
see
talking
how
about
people do want to.
And I feel like this is something that societies don't address at all, is the morality around pressuring people to conform to your religious rules, whether they are part of your religion or not. And also the pressuring of people to engage in believe in your religion, whether they want to or not. Those are two moral claims that a lot of societies overlook. And I feel like that is a big thing that your response kind of pointed out, is that like, oh, well, it's fine if people want to like do this in their society. I don't think it's fine. I don't think you should be able to make everybody in a society conform to your religion just because you believe it to be true. I think that's wrong. And I think that it's religious overreach and control of people's minds that you shouldn't have. I think people should have agency around religion and be able to believe in what they want to believe in. And the overreach of religion in society inhibits that.
That is what it is. And I don't agree with me personally living in that lifestyle. But if someone else wants to do that, I guess,
but that's not addressing the right or wrong. That's just saying you think it's okay. And that's what you said before. It's not addressing what I said. Because I'm making moral claims about the overreach of religion and how it influences people's minds and ability to have agency in their own religious faiths. Like if everybody is atheist in society and you're pressuring people to be atheists, that's going to have an inhibiting effect on religiosity. And if everybody is Christian in society and all the political leaders are Christian and everybody in power is Christian, that's going to have an inhibiting effect on all other religions.
No, you're correct. You are correct.
So why can you recognize the morality there but then not apply that same standard when it comes to other countries that are running their countries according to their religious beliefs?
So then my question for you is then what do you think about other countries? Yeah, what do you think about other countries like
I just stated my opinion on that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. No, you did. No, I agree with it. Okay. Yeah, I agree with it.
WWW. Thank you for listening.
No,
and W, not just for agreeing with me, but for listening. Because dear God, it's a struggle.
No, I get it. I appreciate the time, man.
All right, thanks for coming up.
Of course.
We got one, boys. We got one. But y'all, let me know why I'm wrong. What do you disagree with? So many comments. People debating each other, not me.